Hey, let's bring this meeting of the Monterey Planning Commission to order for Tuesday, March 28th, 2023. And could we start off with instructions to access the meeting if you're not in the chambers?
Absolutely. Members of the public are encouraged to join our meetings via Zoom Gov, a secure service that connects you live with no lag time. This meeting is also streamed live on youtube.com/City of Monterey with a 10-second delay and Comcast channel 25 with up to a 90-second delay. If you would like to provide public comment, please join the meeting using Zoom or by telephone, making sure to join in time to accommodate delays. To join the Zoom meeting from a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. Since the meeting has started, you'll find the agenda under the Recent tab. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864 toll free. Once again, that phone number is 833-568-8864. Then enter the webinar ID 161-990-8039. Once again, this meeting's webinar ID is 161-990-8039. If prompted for a participant ID, press pound. Detailed instructions for using Zoom are available at monterey.org/public meetings. To provide public comment via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. To provide comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand, then *6 to unmute when called upon. Public commenters will be announced using their last 3 phone number digits or the name typed into Zoom. Public commenters will be muted until it is their turn to speak. Please turn off TV or computer speakers or go to another room while connected, as background noise interferes with the broadcast. Public speakers will be called upon in order of hands raised. There is a 3-minute time limit for today's meeting. Please stay within that limit.
Okay, thank you. It looks like we have 2 items on our consent agenda. Meeting minutes from February 28th, 2023 and March 14th, 2023. These are items that can be pulled off the agenda by commissioners or anybody from the public, or we can.
There is a hand raiser online.
Okay, let's do that.
Jean Rash, you should be able to unmute. If you have comments on the meeting minutes, now is the time for that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to just make public comment on non-agendized items.
Okay, we can come back to you after we vote on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Jean. Anybody like to make a motion on the consent agenda, these 2 items?
Yes, move to approve both sets of minutes, February 28th and March 14th, 2023, without amendment.
Second?
Okay. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Do we have roll call on this?
One question.
Oh.
So I wasn't there for the 14th. I can still vote on the item.
You can, or you can abstain if you'd like.
Okay.
Chair Fletcher?
Yes.
Oh, I never did the roll call today. Actually, let me announce who's present first because we do have some absences.
Okay.
So present here for the commission, we have Chair Fletcher, Vice Chair, Commissioner Bluth is absent. Commissioner Brassfield.
Present.
Commissioner Dawson is also absent today. Commissioner Freeman
Here.
and Commissioner Latassa.
Present.
And then for staff members present, we have Community Development Director Cole, Senior Associate Planner Schmidt, Recording Secretary Jennifer Cleary, that's myself. And then back to the vote. So we did have a motion by Commissioner Freeman and it was seconded by Commissioner Brassfield. And then now it's the vote to approve both sets of minutes. Chair Fletcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Bluth is absent. Commissioner Brassfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson is absent. Commissioner Freeman
Yes.
and Commissioner Latassa.
Yes.
Perfect. That motion carries and both sets of minutes are approved.
Great, thank you. So we can move on now to our public comments.
Yes, and now we do have Jean Rash on the line.
Thank you to commissioners of the Planning Commission and Chair Fletcher. I'm Jean Rash, calling on behalf of the Monterey Vista Neighborhood Association, in appreciation for all you've done to stand by the residents who wanted strong wireless categories. And you may not realize how much we depend on you, but the residents feel that you're our front guard and you've always stood by residents. And as a commission, you've always historically had such an advanced vision of what the city can be. And we really want to thank you so much for all that support. And as you probably know, the city council, after much comment from the public, added on, followed your lead to add in the 100-foot setbacks from residences. They did limit it to R1 and PUCs, but we're taking that as a victory. And I personally wish it would be in all residential areas, but we're taking it as a win, and very much appreciate your support and your commitment to local control of our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean. Jennifer, anyone else raising their hand?
No more hands are raised.
Anyone from the audience wishing to speak to the Planning Commission? Okay. That takes us to our regular agenda, moving on to item number 4, which is consider 601 Wave Street use permit UP 220224 to allow a modified Verizon Wireless Services LLC personal wireless service facility. The applicant is John Scandola, and he's with Camp and Associates Incorporated on behalf of Verizon. The owner is City of Monterey, zoning is C2. Public, semi-public general plan land use designation. This is exempt from CEQA per Article 19, Section 15303, Class 3. And who's with us? Oh, there he is. Jerry's going to make a presentation.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners here via Zoom. Let me share my screen. Share. Can everyone see the
Yes.
see the PowerPoint at this point? Okay, great. So again, as stated, this is a modification of an existing Verizon wireless facility. And it's located adjacent to the public parking structure bounded by Hoffman's Avenue, Wave Street, Foam Street, and Prescott Avenue. And as you can see, the location of the existing antennas is right there. And I'll show you that the support equipment is underneath the stairs in a lower section of the parking structure. So the project description is basically removal of the existing 2-foot wide radome, which is another word for a concealment container, removal of existing 6 panel antennas and 2 of the antenna mounts, removal of 6 existing remote radio units or RRUs, and then they're going to install, which I'll show you on the plans, 1 new 4-foot 5-inch wide radome, 6 new panel antennas, and 6 new RRUs. The ownership is the City of Monterey. It's a public parking structure. The applicant is John Scandola of Camp and Associates, Inc. The wireless carrier is Verizon Wireless Services, LLC. Right now, this property is zoned C2, and it's in the general plan designation of public, semi-public. As you're familiar with, this application is an eligible facilities request under Section 6409A of the Middle Class Tax Relief and Job Creation Act of 2012. Basically means it's not a substantial change per the Federal Communications Commission's definition for a modified structure that meets these requirements. There is a 60-day shot clock, which will end on May 7th, 2023. This is a basic site plan of where the existing facilities are located. Here is Foam Street, Hoffman Avenue, and Wave Street. And the concealment container is right there, adjacent to the sidewalk, which I'll show you in some pictures. And then the support equipment, again, is in a lower level of the garage under or near some stairways, public stairways. So the antenna, which is existing in the concealment container, is 2 feet wide. And they're proposing a little bit larger antennas on a little bit different mounts. So they'll have to widen the concealment container to 4 feet 5 inches. So it's about 2 feet 5 inches wider than the existing. Support equipment is simply to take out 6 remote radio units and replace them with 6 new ones in the same location. There's an equipment room down in the lower level of the parking structure. So here is an elevation view of the existing concealment container. And this is the proposed container, which is a little bit wider at the top to accommodate those 6 new antennas in this location. And then, as you can see, the support equipment is totally concealed in a lower level of the parking structure. And here's just another view of that new concealment antenna container in the exact same place. One thing to note, though, is the container will be 4 feet. This one is 4 feet higher than the existing one. Under the FCC rules, you can go up to 10 feet higher, but they're limited their expansion to 4 feet. So moving to the photo simulations, this is a view looking down the street towards Monterey Bay, and here's the existing concealment container. It's, as you can see, designed to look like a steamboat smokestack or a historic steamboat smokestack. So it will be a little bit taller, 4 feet taller and 2 feet 5 inches wider, but in the same exact location. And here's another view looking towards the southwest, again, slightly wider and a little bit taller. And one more view looking north. You also can see from this view that there will be, on the existing one, there's a little light fixture that matches these light fixtures on the parking structure, and that will be continued in the proposed container for the antennas. So we did have a radio frequency study prepared and reviewed by a third party. Proposed antennas would be compliant with all FCC rules, and no public safety limits are exceeded at ground level or any adjacent properties, as shown on this figure. As you can see, the yellow depicts the occupational limits for workers working on the antennas and other equipment, and that limit is 15 feet from the antennas. And then the public limit, which is the safety limit for the public, is within 40 feet of the antennas. So it does not reach the adjacent properties and is above the parking structure and above all sidewalk and other features, such as the street. This is just a plan view of that same figure. Again, the blue is the public limit. And you can see it will not exceed the street, and this is the occupational limit. To further ensure that there is no radio frequency hazard to the public or workers, There will be required worker safety training for work near the antennas. Contact information will be made available at antenna and support equipment areas. Proper cautionary signage shall be posted at the antenna and the support equipment areas. And these areas will be restricted and secured to access, and that would be where feasible. So with that, staff does recommend that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving use permit UP 22-0224 to allow modifications to an existing Verizon personal wireless service facility at 601 Wave Street. Thank you, and I'm available for questions, and I believe the applicant is also on the Zoom call.
Thank you, Jerry. Questions for Jerry?
It's kind of ironic that one of the things that we've focused on in all our studies on cell towers is the aesthetics. That's one of the few areas that we've ever had some control. Yet I see this black looking thing poking up in the air. It's almost obscene, like a sooted tower. Why does it have to be that color, that dark? Why can't it fit into the neighborhood with a color that would kind of help? We have 3 architects in the room, and I'm sure that there are some other colors that would be more general.
Well, what color are the ones at the Del Monte Shopping Center?
Not black,
Kind of like charcoal gray.
but that's my point, is we're not looking. Do we need to look at something it's obvious, trying to mask maybe the visualization that we're seeing here of something that's poking up in the air?
Well, maybe Jerry has an answer.
Well, I should say either Jerry or the person that's submitting the project. But I'm asking, is there a generalized color for things coming up in the air to make them less visible?
So
Yeah.
the planning commission could have discretion on the color of it's supposed to look like, and it's been there. It actually existed previously as like a smokestack, sort of similar to Cannery Row architecture. I think the current color is black, but if the commission as part of its decision wants a different color, like gray or something closer to the parking garage, that certainly is within your jurisdiction to require.
Yeah, and it's really strange because traveling across the country, I've seen a lot of smokestack. Some of them are black near the top, but none of them, typically they're not all black. And that, I don't know, I don't know what discussion the commission had on a previous submission, but I just, Jerry, you got any ideas?
Yeah, I think Kim laid it out well. It's supposed to look like a historic steamship smokestack, but typically they can be a gray color, like we're saying, to match the parking structure, or sometimes even blue, or I don't think in this case green would help, although it might, since there is some vegetation near there. But that's what we're looking at, and that historically that was supposed to look like an old steamboat that may have been in the harbor at one point.
Okay, Jerry, I've got a question. When was the original tower here installed?
I believe that was 2003 or 2004. I can verify that.
And the intent at that time was to conceal this tower into an architectural element that.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Jerry?
My question, thank you.
I guess I also, that's caught my eye too. So I had the exact, I was thinking this is the color selection is of Lord Voldemort black for some reason. And something in a non-shiny gray would be so much more appropriate. So yeah, Jerry, any help on that color selection would be helpful. And then the other biggest concern, of course, is as the radio frequency diagram suggests, that this has been designed to avoid any exposure, of course, for workers and the public. You know, I guess the question is, the engineering is quite solid on this, but on the other hand, this is sticking up the elements for decades. What kind of conditions are suggested to this approval that would make sure that there's no slippage, or that the thing, you know, the bolts come loose and it's suddenly projecting down instead of horizontal the way it's shown on this diagram? Is there, in your opinion, are the conditions sufficient to have follow-up verification that the you know, that these radio waves aren't projecting down instead of horizontally?
Yes, thank you for your question. I'm looking for the condition that's, oh, here it is. Prior to, condition number 19 states that prior to final inspection, a post-installation RF coverage report is required to confirm that the RF emission levels are those that were reported to you tonight in this pre-construction RF emissions report, and that they are in compliance with FCC requirements as well. So before they can actually operate, after it's constructed, they'll have to provide another post-installation report to confirm that. And that doesn't imply also that that should be for the permanent RF coverage as well.
So the question would be, in 10 years, what assurance do we have that bolts haven't slipped and the projection hasn't changed? Is there, you know, maybe this is an impossible question, but, you know,
Yeah.
on behalf of the public, what is there any 10-year inspection or some other verification in the future that's possible?
Yeah, we don't have that condition in there currently, but that could be added to that condition or another condition if needed.
So
It just occurs to me to this, because it's the same situation on every application. You know, it's heavily engineered. You assume there's going to be no slippage.
Yeah.
But I don't know what, you know, maybe there would be some logic in the future of having a further follow-up at some distant time point. Just
Yeah, excuse me, I just did notice there are two conditions that address that. There is number 9, general maintenance. That they should maintain the property in a neat and clean manner. And then number 8 is adverse impacts on adjacent properties. The permittee shall undertake all reasonable efforts to avoid undue adverse impacts to adjacent properties and or uses that may arise from the construction, operation, maintenance, modification, or removal of the facility. So,
Well, in your opinion, Jerry,
yes.
would a condition that said something like, you know, this follow-up verification is to be repeated in 5 or 10 years, is that reasonable, or would that be unpractical in some way?
So are you discussing a new RF report in 5 to 10 years?
Yes.
I don't know if we can legally do that. I'll just say that up front.
Okay.
There is case law, and we can come back on another application potentially, because we are under streamlining on this one, and get a legal opinion on whether or not we can require conditions like that. But I know where cities have tried to enforce inspection programs and to be reimbursed for those. I believe there's case law that doesn't allow that to occur. We clearly can't send city employees up to look at anything, right? Because they're on rooftops, they're at the top of Del Monte Center's flagpole. They're low, I mean, for occupational health safety issues, we can't send city employees up to look. So what you're asking for is an RF report in the future. That's a pretty substantial deviation from everything we've done in the past. And I would request time to get legal
I think
input.
the question is what can be done to guarantee that the technical aspect of these towers are maintained?
It's already required, isn't it, that they be maintained?
It's required that it's maintained, but you're going further now. So for example, this facility had, the cover was broken and had some things. We noticed that from the ground. We called the installer and they went out and fixed it. So we can go out and say, you know, from our vantage point, we see like the shielding is broken and it needs to be fixed, or the paint is peeling, you know, please repaint it. We can do those types of things, but if you want follow-up RF reports in years out in the future, I don't know if we can do that.
So I guess condition 19 on this application, can we look at that? I mean, I don't want to belabor this, but I think it's just, you know, I hate to admit it, but it just occurred to me right now. It's like, you know, I know how mechanical steel construction is, and it sometimes slips. 10 years, bolts get rusty and things do, can move. So it would be nice, like I guess, let's look at 19 then.
This is prior to final inspection. We require a post-installation RF report. So before we allow, like as part of the facility being turned on, there's a secondary RF
Yeah.
report.
So basically what I'm suggesting
Is
is
in the future.
a 5 or 10 year
Yeah.
reinspection, just to verify, you know, and of course, city staff wouldn't be doing it. Somebody's going to have to pay for it, but I don't think it's unreasonable.
Well, I
just
think
in my
it
experience with-
might be, depending on who has to pay for it. Is it a city council program that they have to
Right.
create a CIP program to fund that condition? Or is it something that can be conditioned on applicants, and what's the case law
Okay.
involved
Well,
in there?
I don't mean to create a dilemma here. I think on this application, I'm happy with it as submitted. I'm not going to oppose it on this item. But like you suggest, maybe we could ask staff or the city attorney to look into that.
And I think that Kim already covered part of it, because city staff does pay attention to these facilities and noted that one of them was damaged and so brought the attention. I think if we maintain that kind of a posture of visual check and noting anything that's obviously amiss, report it to the maintainer so that they can fix it. Yeah, I think it's covering what you're suggesting.
Yeah, but you know,
That's informal.
yeah, but I still think it's worthwhile.
Oh,
Because the thing is inside of a shroud. Nobody's going to be able to visually verify if something is going on in there unless they can somehow remove the shroud and inspect or, you know, it's basically an RF report at some point in the future. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to create a dilemma with this one, because as I said, I'm happy with this. I've thoroughly looked through all the reports and everything. It looks like a good application to me.
But
except
to your
for the
point,
color.
the last time, this means that if there weren't a periodic inspection, the next time that this would be looked at would be the next upgrade. And this upgrade is taking place 18 years after the original
exactly.
installation.
Yeah.
So 18 years is a long time.
Yeah.
So I think it's a legitimate concern, and it's going to come up again. So might as well get an opinion.
Yeah, we'll definitely. Did we open this up for public comment yet?
Oh,
An
we're
applicant?
still asking
We're still
questions.
questions, okay.
Yeah, we got into it.
And I have some questions. Do you have questions?
I have a comment. I don't have a question.
Comments are coming up. Jerry, question on the RF projection elevation and the elevations that you showed us originally. The shroud comes down at different levels, like that one's shown up high where the yellow is. And then the other elevations, it appeared as though the shroud came down further. So my question is, why, if this intent originally was to appear as a smokestack, why are we looking at a scheme where it doesn't appear as a smokestack anymore? Or maybe-
Yeah, I think here's a better comparison right there. It's just a little bit wider and taller smokestack, I would say.
That's fine, but a smokestack would indicate that's something that comes all the way to the ground. When you look at those two elevations, not the drawing elevations that you had, it
Oh,
shows.
Yeah, that would definitely go to the ground though.
So-
It's just that this is a fence around the property.
See, even the lower elevation there, it appears to be off the ground somewhere, somewhat.
Yeah, this is still the steel container. It just gets a little bit wider up here to encompass the larger antennas.
So my question now is, does that jog back into the thinner antenna happen below the fence gate or the solid fence or above it? I just want to know what's the authenticity of this approach compared to the original intent of an architectural element.
Yeah. It appears to be a few feet higher than the fence for transition.
Thank you for answering my question. Any other
Thank you.
questions for Jerry? Great. What's maybe the applicant? Does the applicant have anything they would like to present? Okay, let's open it up for
Well,
public.
Jennifer, are they online?
There is somebody named Dwayne Bonham with their hand raised, and we do have a public comment with their hand raised. Is Dwayne an applicant? Or John S? Maybe that, John Scandola, possibly? Okay, John, you should be able to unmute. If you are the applicant, please let us know.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, yes, the intent is to go all the way down to the fence, so it does have that visual representation of a solid smokestack. I think maybe in that elevation, it doesn't properly capture that, but the intent was to go all the way down to the fence, so it does have that solid smokestack look, which was what was important as far as how this was visually represented.
thank you. Any other questions for the applicant?
Maybe a follow-up on Commissioner Brassfield's question about what colors are available.
Well, we wanted to match the existing color. Now, I know that was what was determined back in 2003 when this was initially permitted. But we can change the color if that is what is preferred at this time. And I guess if we do that, I guess we need to determine what color would be most appropriate.
Just to suggest something that would be appropriate for this building is sort of a non-shiny gray of some sort.
I was kind of wondering if a gray would be something that would possibly work. So something that would be like a non-metallic type of gray.
Yes, exactly. Because the building has that sort of corrugated gray material over it, whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely, changing the color is something that we could definitely do.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to open this up for public comment.
Okay, and first commenter. Actually, I want to announce for the viewers at home before I let anyone comment.
Thank
To
you.
join the meeting from a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864 toll free, then enter the webinar ID 161-990-8039. To provide public comment via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. To provide comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand, then *6 to unmute when called upon. And just a reminder, there is a 3-minute time limit. And Jean Rash, you should be able to unmute.
Thank you. So I'll go right to my question. As you're looking at the RF projection from the elevation view, when you look at it, the thought naturally occurs is, why can't it be moved over to the parking structure or any other tall building near there and give the same coverage? And I'm wondering if we're missing an opportunity to work with Mr. Scandola and Camp and Associates to get an even better idea. I mean, I know it's already there. I know it's a C2, not disfavored location. I know you're under the shot clock. But when you look at it, it's an obstruction. That one picture of the bay in the background breaks your heart because it's a big, black, I'm sorry, ugly structure in our beautiful city. And it's been a long time since I got 100 on my geometry regents in New York State, but going from a diameter of 2 feet to a diameter of 4 feet, 5 inches is a huge visual increase. And I'm not here to make a big deal over stopping it or anything. I know we're stuck with servicing. We need the service, but why can't we envision a better answer in an adjacent location that's not going to just stick out in our beautiful city? I bet Camp and Associates would work with the city on that. It could be done. We can have a more beautiful city. I also worry it's a Verizon project. Does this mean that we're going to be having to put up poles for, you know, each telecom? And it just seems we're missing a creative opportunity to work with people, with professionals that I'm sure are very reasonable and would see why we're concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer, how's it look?
Thank you. There is another commenter. Dwayne Bonham. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. You should be able to unmute.
Yes, that is correct pronunciation. Thank you. Yes, I'm Dwayne Bonham. I'm the radio engineer for Verizon Wireless, and I wanted to let you guys know that I'm here to answer any questions. One of the conversations that was taking place earlier in regards to the antennas slipping and the beams pointing down, these antennas are tight enough in this enclosure that I don't think that would be possible. We've tried to keep this enclosure as small as we can and fit the newer antennas in, so there's not a lot of room there. That is a great concern on many sites. And just a heads up, we have to recertify our entire network for RF safety on an annual basis. And each time we do an upgrade to any of the technology within the structure, we do another one of these reports. So it hasn't been 18 years since we have checked this. It is probably on average redone every about 5 years when there's some type of a change to the technology. And if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Thank you.
Only one question aesthetically. Is there any light or signal at the top of this stack?
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So I have a question for staff.
Oops, sorry.
Hello?
That was to remind me to remember.
Is there, per Mike's question, is, when do you have to put a light on top of a structure?
You mean a red light for overcoming?
Yeah,
incoming?
airport zone stuff.
So the FAA determines that, and as a condition of approval of this application, they have to submit their drawings to the FAA, and they're that's basically with your new ordinance that will go into effect as well. So they submitted an application. The FAA looks at two things. They look at the height of the facility. They're also documenting, I think, for their records where 4 and 5G is located.
Great. So that's in the conditions.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's bring our public comment on this to conclusion. Anybody else?
I see no further hands raised online.
All right, we're going to close the public comment on this item and bring it back to commissioners for consideration. I never noticed that tower there before, to be honest with you. Drive by there all the time. I always thought it was just a clever architectural detail that was part of the original design. I'm okay with black, but if you want to suggest another color, I would suggest not going too light.
I personally have had noted it in the past, and now we're doubling the size of this thing. Even when I saw it, it was like thumb sticking up to me, and so I paid attention to it. So aesthetically, yeah, it's attention getting. But since we're doubling in size, I want to make it less visible than it is right now. And that's why I would recommend and support that kind of recommendation. It's a matte gray, similar to the structure.
Like the aquarium. It has these huge gray faux smokestacks. They aren't functional. They're totally, references to the previous industrial use on that site.
Mhm.
So I think that's a really good point, and I'll support a motion that that does recommend, changing it. But I agree with the chair that it shouldn't be too light in color.
Right.
That's why I said it was just similar color. Once again, I'm focusing on aesthetics here, which is one of the areas they do allow us to pay attention.
Right.
Chris,
I would suggest 50% French gray, be pretty invisible. And the matte finish, check that one out. I think to Jean's point and also to Mike Brassfield's point, it isn't just a slight increase in size, it's doubling in size. It may be 4 feet taller, but it's twice as wide. So the flagpoles at the Del Monte Shopping Center, I think, are probably that 50% French gray matte finish, and they can't see them. But this also would tie in with the color of the other ones at the aquarium. One interesting thing in all of this discussion over the wireless communication towers and the canisters and the bubbles and all of this stuff, and the discussions with the public, there seemed to me to be some alarm attached to the fact that we're going from 4G to 5G and somehow tying that into an increase in radio frequency, which is not true. I heard an ad on in the radio just yesterday that some telephone company is advertising 10G. And so I think that the public probably wants to be reassured that the increases in Gs is just an increase in the generation and the capability, and not a whole bunch more radio frequency showering down on our heads.
Chris, I was going to ask you to pull up a picture of the aquarium. Are you ahead of me on that one? Yeah. There's your colors.
That's pretty light, isn't it?
Similar color to the side of the building.
For sake of trying to be more specific without calling out a color chip, can we just refer to this as an example of what our intent is for color for the stacks?
Well, originally I was suggesting the same color as the building that it's attached to, which would carry out the similarity as it went up. But that's, anything would be better in my mind. Okay, I'll make a motion.
Yes, please.
And make, if you will, that we approve the project, of course, but also that we add this clarification for color to a matte color similar to the building it's attached to. That would make it easy for them and it'd be consistent with that location.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion, and a second. Further discussion? Okay, Jennifer, can we have a roll call on the vote?
Yes, Chair Fletcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Bluth is absent. Commissioner Brassfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson is still absent. Commissioner Freeman,
Yes.
Commissioner Latassa.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries and the project is approved as submitted with the one condition to change the color to a matte gray, similar to the building. And it is appealable to the city council with forms found at the planning commission within the next 2 days or 3 days.
3
3
days.
days. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're moving on to item number 5 on our regular agenda, which is consider 912 Del Monte Center Text Amendment Application TM 220217 to amend the Del Monte Center SC Plan. Land use regulations. Applicant is Sarah Kuban from Waldrunke and Dost. The owner is American Assets Trust. It's a C2 SC zoning district, commercial general plan designation, and this is exempt from CEQA for Article 18, Section 15270A. We have a staff report.
Yes, thank you, Chair. My name is Chris Schmidt. I'm a senior associate planner with the city, and I've been working with the applicant on this project. So just moving on to the recommendation, and some little background information. So the commission did see this project on the 14th of March, provided some guidance to the applicant and was continued to this meeting. Staff's recommendation does not change, and I will go into some detail of what their amendment is. But for the public and for some commissioners who were not in attendance at the previous meeting, this project site is the Del Monte Center. It is a shopping center that's kind of bound by the Highway 1 and Munros Avenue here. It has a C2 SC zoning district. C2 is our, I believe it is the community commercial designation. And then the SC is our shopping center overlay. And this is really the only site in the city that has this overlay. And so the amendment would just be for this site. And so the applicant project description is to amend the plan to eliminate the prohibition on professional and business office uses. Originally, it was proposed that 5% of the gross leasable area of the shopping center be allowed for these new commercial office business professional uses. That would have totaled to be about 33,600 square feet. Their amended language would allow up to 6,000 square feet, so a substantial reduction in the allowable area. They did also receive guidance from the Planning Commission to revise some of the uses that are on the plan today. And so they did eliminate laundromats, post office, and Christian Science reading rooms from the uses that are specifically allowed, and then added the uses proposed to be allowed, dentists, tax and financial services, as well as chiropractors specifically allowed. So I kind of gave some background info on the plan, but that's what this slide is intended to do. So so what the plan allows today is it allows uses in the C2 zoning district, both principally permitted and uses that require use permit. I mentioned at the past meeting, the Gold's Gym is a use at the shopping center now that received use permit approval. So the plan does have modifications to the list of allowed uses, including prohibition on doctors, lawyers, dentists, architects, and accountants. And the doctor section specifically prohibits or mentions osteopaths and chiropractors. And I mentioned additional uses were specifically allowed, and just quickly going through that list just for some context. Photographers, barber and beauty shops, cleaning and laundry pickup stations, dispensing opticians, laundromats, post offices, Christian Science reading room, and then one of each of the following: real estate broker, travel bureau, and airline ticket agency, stockbroker, insurance agent, title insurance company, veterinary office, and loan and credit agency. So as I mentioned, one or two uses could be allowed to the uses that would only be allowed to at the site were banks and savings and loan facilities. And then there are additional regulations for fast food as well as outdoor farmers markets. So here's a site plan of the site. There is a maximum of 673,329 square feet of gross leasable area established by the plan. The existing floor area totals less than that. That's currently being leased about 640,000. There are 83 existing suites, and they widely range in areas from the smallest of 500 square feet and the largest at Macy's 200,000 square feet. And as I mentioned, 5%, just again for context, 5% of that max was 33,600, and then the applicant has changed the proposal to 6,000. And then, before I continue, I think there's some background info that's really kind of the reason why this application is here is we do have towards the end of 2022, our building department received a building permit for a chiropractic office, in this corner here near the Whole Foods, kind of in between the Whole Foods and the pet supply store. And it was referred to me, and the building staff asked if this was an allowed use, which is something the planners look at, and to my surprise, actually, the chiropractor's offices were prohibited by the plan, and so that's why we're here today. The chiropractor had talked to his leasing agent and the property owner, and asked if this is something they would choose to amend so they could allow that use. The size of that space is that he was proposing to use was 1,000 square feet, and then kind of the rest that I've explained was the history of where we got to here today.
Okay, thank you.
So moving on to the analysis. So again, the staff recommendation is to deny deny the application. Basically, the planning commission would recommend denial to the city council. And that the staff reasoning for that is simple. It's that this area is specifically to be used for shopping uses. The Del Monte Center is really the largest retail sales tax generator for the city. And I think the city found that elimination of retail uses would lose some sales tax potential. And then the city does contain a lot of office zoned space that has generally found to be underutilized. We do see other uses, housing coming into some of those areas because of that underutilized space. And we find no need for additional office space. So again, staff recommends that the planning commission recommend denial to the council. Thanks.
Okay, any questions for Chris? Okay, then Henry, would you like to make a presentation?
Good afternoon, Planning Commission members. My name is Henry Runke. I'm with Wald Runke and Dost Architects. We may also have on the line a representative from American Assets, Jerry Gamieri. I'm not sure if he's on the Zoom, but he may also want to say a few words on behalf of the ownership. I did a presentation the last time and just wanted to kind of remind a few points. This is a shopping center that's been owned by American Assets for 20 years. And since that time, the world has changed in retail. Mervyn's used to be there at that time. They left in about 2009. As I mentioned before, the iPhone had not even been invented, and a lot of retailing was done through shopping centers and getting in the car and going somewhere. We know a lot of that has changed. But despite that, American Assets has been a great steward and a good friend to our community. They've brought in a lot of great retail and other types of businesses. I listed a few last time. Few that I didn't list were like Apple Computer. We have the Apple Store, Islands Restaurant, Hollister, Lucky Brand, a lot of different things. Lots changed since they took over, and I think they've invested a lot into the shopping center, and they've done a great job. Despite that, there's still a lot of vacancy at the shopping center. And I would agree with staff on the retail issue if we were full, and we had always been full, and we were really trying to displace some retail use in order to be able to bring some of these other uses in. The reality is there's plenty of space available. If a retail user wants to come into Del Monte Center, there's space. So it's not a situation where allowing something like a chiropractor that would take about 800 square feet would have any impact at all on the viability of anybody else being able to come in and lease at the shopping center. In fact, really the strategy is to look at the new environment in shopping centers and realize that lifestyle centers do have things such as chiropractors and other types of businesses, the eye doctor. And so for people to be able to be attracted to some of these other uses while they're at the shopping center, it also allows them to do more retail shopping. So the hope is that this is not directly a way to increase tax revenues through retail, but rather it is indirectly going to be bringing more people into the shopping center. And again, we would like to think of this more as a lifestyle center. Again, we're not limiting retail uses. Any retail use can come in. What we are doing is we are saying that we've got a lot of extra space, we've got a lot of vacancy, and this is a way to really improve the shopping center. Let's see. And then the other thing that's changed is, and I want to thank the Planning Commission for allowing us to come up with some more ideas. The American Assets took a look. They've actually reduced the amount that would be changed in their list of uses that are allowed and the ones that are not allowed. And as a result, they came back and they've limited the square footage from, I think we were asking for 5% of almost 650, 700,000 square feet, which is quite a bit, down to now they're identifying the items in item A limited to 6,000 square feet. And then many of the items that are listed under item B, we've taken out some, we've added a few, but all in all, it's not going to have any remarkable or perceptible difference in the tenancy within the shopping center. But we do appreciate an open-mindedness to be able to look at some of these uses, particularly with a good tenant like a chiropractor, which we'd like to see be able to come in. And the location they're going is also kind of near the Whole Foods, which I would call more community serving retail. It's not in the main part of the shopping center. So there are like types of uses in that area too. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'd appreciate if your consideration and approval of the revised list and square footages as being proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you, Henry. Anybody in the audience wishing to speak? Oh, yes, please come up.
And Jerry Gamieri is on the line.
Okay.
I'm not sure if he wants to speak, though. The hand is not up raised. Oh, it's
Well, we'll continue with what we have.
okay.
Can I start?
Mhm.
Hi, guys. My name is Joseph Davy. I'm a 35-year resident of the Monterey Bay. I'm here as the owner and franchisee of the Joint Chiropractic of Monterey and Salinas. The Joint Chiropractic is a national retail chiropractic business. We have over 800 clinics around the country. We have 1,200 chiropractors and serve 12 million adjustments a year. We're mostly located in malls and shopping centers. There's no appointments. It's a walk-in clinic. There's no insurance. There's no x-rays. There's no biohazard or waste. We do serve active and veteran and military at discounted rates. Veterans don't have chiropractic care under their insurance. They need an affordable way to come and walk into a place like the Joint Chiropractic and be able to get served chiropractic care. And your concerns about March 14th meeting about the sales tax, chiropractors do sell things like mobility tools and pillows. The Joint Chiropractic chiropractors can recommend to their patients nutritional guidelines, and wouldn't you know, Whole Foods is right next door. And we do recommend other things, especially when we adjust patients, such as insoles and foot care. And the mall does provide, suitable places that patients can conveniently go to get their recommendation. I've been at this lease and permit for over a year now. It's not that easy to go get a lease in Monterey. My space that I'm asking for is 950 square feet. And, I would just kindly ask for you guys to have this open mind. And, we're a great business. I love Monterey. I want to continue to, be here and serve the public. And I guess, what I'm asking is that you guys just see it in your hearts to, maybe amend this 950 square foot place so that a local chiropractor could come serve his community.
Thank you. Jennifer.
And we do have Jerry Gamieri with his hand raised.
Okay, let's hear from Jerry.
Good evening, and thank you guys so much for hearing us again so quickly. I mean, it seems like we were just here 2 weeks ago. I just really want to reemphasize that we very much want to see the Joint Chiropractic in our center. They've been patient. We've worked very closely with them, which is the main catalyst behind us reducing our ask from a simple 5% ask to something more smaller at 6,000 square feet. So we just want to give ourselves the opportunity to be able to, continue offering services at the center that are retail, and the Joint Chiropractic is a retail operation. So as much as it is a chiropractic service or a doctor, it functions very well in a retail center, and we just ask for your consideration. And I'm here for any questions.
Thank you, Jerry. Any questions for Jerry? Okay, thank you. Oh, yes. But you want to have something to say?
Please state your name for the record if you feel comfortable doing so.
My name is Whitney Davy, and again, I'm speaking on behalf of the Joint Chiropractic. Just to give you guys a little bit of background, I myself am a physical therapist. If anybody is supposed to not like chiropractors, it's physical therapists, to be honest. It's pretty much what we were taught in school. But when I met him, I saw how much he cares about helping people. He looks at the whole person. He just doesn't look at a part. Like he was saying, he's going to recommend other things that can bring business to people in the mall. I'd also like to address some of the things said last week. Everybody involved in this process is interested in keeping the Del Monte Center busy and bringing business to it. And somebody mentioned people coming from Big Sur to go to the Del Monte Center. And in Salinas, he has a thriving business that has people coming from King City and San Jose just to go to Salinas for this, because it is such a unique opportunity. So I think that we're going to continue to draw people into the Del Monte Center. There was also concern about the loss of sales revenue. I visited a shop, a nail salon, and tried to buy a product from it, and there was nothing for me to buy there. So that's another business that doesn't bring in sales tax, and this is something that is genuinely trying to help the people of Monterey. Again, this space has been vacant for a few years now. It used to be Fleet Feet. And you guys know that Fleet Feet is now in downtown Monterey, and it's been there for quite some time. And it's because they needed a bigger space. This small space, it doesn't appeal sometimes to places that need food prep areas for restaurants or when they need a lot of supply storage. So I think that this small space actually provides a unique opportunity to keep the mall full and keep people coming in. This empty space isn't bringing anybody in, and it's been like that for years. So, trying to get that business in there as soon as possible is going to help the city of Monterey and help the businesses in the mall. Again, it's just a unique opportunity that's not offered in Monterey. It's affordable. You don't have to worry about insurance. When we hurt ourselves, nobody plans on hurting themselves, and having the convenience of just being able to walk in somewhere and not worry about scheduling an appointment. I mean, I've had some healthcare things come up over the past year, and it's not easy. It's not easy dealing with all these appointments and everything. And having this convenience is also going to help people get the healthcare that they need and not just stay in pain and suffering. So I'd like you guys to consider the amendment.
Did we get your name for the record?
Pardon?
Did we get your name?
Yeah, Whitney Davy.
Thank you, Whitney. Anyone else? Jennifer, anybody raising their hand?
There are no hands raised online.
All right, we'll close the public testimony and bring it back to commissioners for consideration.
Glad you're here, Terry.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was quite a discussion last time because the applicant came for a single issue, a single use, a specific location, a specific business, but our discussion was a larger discussion as to what should be included in approved uses at the Del Monte Shopping Center. And is like two different things. And not to denigrate the value of such a business, agree with everything that you say, but this has to do with the larger shopping center and the idea of retail as being a new experience. That's not an opinion, it's just sort of a summary of, I think, of where we are.
I don't know, I watched the video, I read the report, and so I feel like I'm up to speed, but to tell you the truth, I need convincing here. My main reaction, to be honest, is what's the big deal? It's a shopping center. Why not let the chiropractor in? I hate to go against staff's recommendation, but I think I don't see why we should be so inflexible. It seems like a reasonable request, and I'm tending to actually not support this denial that's being recommended to the city council.
Chris, can I ask you a quick question? The total square footage of the shopping center is what?
It was about the existing is about 640,000. Yeah.
And they dropped the request from 30,000 square feet down to 6,000 square feet. Is that my understanding?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
First of all, I thought that the last presentation, it kind of laid out, as Sandy said, two separate issues. But I think that the review in between time has been very healthy because no one had looked at it for a while. And I really thought that some of the recommendations that Chris outlined was pretty good. I'm still stuck on what is a shopping center and what is a professional business building? What's the difference? And last time I said I was in Terry's position, and I will say that to say denial, I'm not even sure what denial is at this point, because we have needs in this community, and I think that the planning commission, and particularly with our staff, we try to keep up with it. But if this is a change in the type of activities that's been going on at our primary business hub, it makes it tough. And I'm still kind of trying to resolve my dichotomy.
Thank you, Sandy.
I would take Dennis off the list and keep that on the A list, which is denied businesses. And my opinion is, you changed my mind last time. You changed my mind last time. This red list, this page here, okay. My thought is continue to have Dennis up on the A list, which is specifically prohibited, and add tax and financial services and chiropractors to the B list, and let the people have the joint chiropractic.
But no architects.
Hey, no, nothing like that.
I felt injured by that.
No, you're on the A list.
So how about a motion?
I'm not ready for a motion. Yeah.
Shall I?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you have to move to not accept the resolution recommending that the city council deny text amendment application TM 220217 to amend the Del Monte Shopping Center to eliminate prohibition on professional and business uses. And that would be one sentence. And I think we should move to amend the list of prohibited and allowed uses. How does that work? Does that seem reasonable, Kim?
I think that's close enough. I think the one thing I heard is, so you're moving to approve the proposed amendment with, I heard you want Dennis up on the prohibited list.
Uh-huh. As before.
So that would be the only one listed up there under their proposal. Is that your intent? Right now it shows doctors, lawyers, dentists, architects, and accountants.
I think the proposal would be to maintain the list as it is presently, with the exception of moving chiropractors to the B list, specifically allowed, and to follow the amendment as presented by city staff, the red and black one otherwise.
Okay, so just for clarification, doctors, with the exception of chiropractors, doctors, lawyers, dentists, architects, and accountants would be prohibited. The not to exceed 6,000 would be included. And then on the lower level of allowed uses, tax and financial services and chiropractor would be allowed.
Would be added in, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I understand that.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Yes, was that? Commissioner Brassfield, were you the one to second it?
Yes.
Okay, let me just record that. And for the vote, Chair Fletcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Bluth is still absent. Commissioner Brassfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson is still absent. Commissioner Freeman,
Yes.
Commissioner Latassa.
Yes.
Thank you. This motion carries and it is appealable to the,
So it's actually already going to council, so it's not appealable.
thank you.
And denial will no longer appear on the recommended.
So for the planning commission recommendation, your recommendation will go forward as drafted. I'm not sure on staff's yet
Okay,
how we're going, but we'll definitely bring forward your recommendation. And I'm not sure at this point whether we'll carry our staff recommendation forward.
And thanks for staff for that review. That was a good, healthy review.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Item number 6 on the agenda, confirm replacement for vice chair due to resignation, CEQA not a project. Okay, what do we have?
So I guess I was surprised when I went and read the rotation policy. There's no minimum service required for vice chair. So the only person that is not served as vice chair would be Bob Bluth. So he would be the next person eligible for vice chair. But when I come back in July for the new appointments, Bob will not be eligible to be chair because you have to be on the commission for a total of 6 months. So Mike Dawson would rotate up. So it'd be potentially Mike Dawson and Bob Bluth as, probably chair and vice chair. And then Terry would be next. If that's acceptable.
Fast work for Bob.
yeah.
I know. I don't even know if he read the agenda, to be honest. So, because he is on vacation. Part of me thinks we should postpone this for one more meeting just to make sure he wants to do it.
Okay.
But, or we can just appoint him, or you can.
Yeah, scare him.
You're not allowed to go anywhere.
It seems
Yeah.
like his tenure on ARC gave him enough familiarity. I get the sense he's totally like in the groove.
He seems to have filled in pretty well.
So does this require like a affirmation with a vote or?
We usually do have a vote. So with the
Okay.
motion and second to accept the rotation.
I'll make a motion to accept it as presented.
Second. I'll second. Okay. Vote, roll call vote, please.
Chair Fletcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Bluth is absent. Commissioner Brassfield
Yes.
and Commissioner Dawson is also absent. Commissioner Freeman
Yes.
and Commissioner Latassa.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries and Bob Bluth is now our vice chair.
There you go. Okay, on to commissioners' comments. Any comments from commissioners?
I have a comment. So in light of all the tree crashes in the last month, I have 2 clients who have had damage to their
Mhm.
houses. And they're kind of screaming at me about, can't the city or zoning ordinance be a little more flexible for especially these big Monterey pines? They don't, anyways. What I'm suggesting is that we might consider agendizing a discussion about the tree ordinance.
Mhm.
So the tree ordinance doesn't fall under the purview of the planning commission. It is a separate section of the municipal code. We did have 3 members of the public that came to the last council meeting on Tuesday and requested amendments to our tree ordinance that the city council has not yet directed staff to pursue or put on an agenda. Those 3 commenters suggested, well, actually, we had probably a total of 5 commenters. 3 of them wanted the ordinance to be changed so the property owner could have full discretion to remove their trees with, they could get advice from the city forester, but the full discretion is at their level. And then 2 other speakers are, I would say, I'm characterizing here, more against tree removals and wants an even modification of the forest floor. They like grass removals and stuff. They think, or at least how I understood their comment, they like we shouldn't be doing greenbelt clearance and those types of things because in their perception, that's destabilizing the forest. So my guess is the city council is going to provide direction.
Great.
I would recommend if you feel strongly about this, call your council members and
I didn't realize it's
it's not in our ordinance.
not a zoning ordinance issue.
No.
FYI, the city has moved on a NCIP project to study all the deaths of the trees that we've had in the city in the last couple of years. I don't know if people realize how many oaks we've lost,
Uh-huh.
but they're actually gone in and now taken biopsies to try to find out what's killing them. And that has been ongoing in recent history. Richard Brisello has been pushing that since he brought it up to NCIP, and the city is finally moving on that. So maybe we can have some contributing information to this whole problem of the city becoming barren of trees.
Okay, any other commissioner comments? Informational reports, staff reports?
I just have a couple things that have changed since we published our report on Friday. We have 2 more wireless applications that have gone complete in the last 2 days. So on your next meeting, you'll have 2 more, the replacement of existing facilities. So we'll have 900 MNRES, 2 wireless applications, as well as a police substation being proposed in, I'll call the old, down by Lake Elistero in the empty building that the visitor center has vacated, at least over a year ago. So the city will be proposing to place a police substation there.
Okay. Okay, anything else? All right, meeting adjourned.